Dr. Tanatchaporn Kittigong is an artist, academic, and practitioner who combines her scholarship with her aesthetic and spiritual pursuits. After being raised in the predominantly Theravada Buddhist culture of Thailand, she trained as a theater actress and studied dance in Moscow and the UK, receiving a PhD in performing arts from the Western Australian Academy of Performing Arts, Edith Cowan University. She is currently an assistant professor in the Department of Music and Performing Arts at the Khon Kaen University in Thailand. In her work as a performer, she has combined her profound and personal knowledge of Buddhism with her professional training in projects such as Hunger with Ming Zhu in 2014, which was performed as part of the Bangkok Theatre Festival in Thailand and the Perth Fringe World in Australia. We are grateful and honored to have Dr. Kittigong speak to us today about her article, Choreographing the Site of Impermanence, Performing Body with Buddhist Philosophy and Meditation in Movement-Based Performance, published in 2015. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting. Hi, everybody.
So for the first question, I was hoping that you can tell us a little bit about your background and why you came to study and teach about Buddhism and dance.
Okay. First of all, I have to say that I am a Buddhist born person because I was born in Thailand, the country that is, Buddhist country. However, what the difference is my family. We are practitioners of Buddhism. So when I say practitioners means that my grandfather, my mother's aunties are all practicing meditation. So we're not like Buddhists in the term of like believer who always go to the temples and making merit. We practice Buddhism in meditation and doing a lot of Dhamma talk, which means like we associate a lot of experience we encounter in our life and talk about it in terms of, using the Buddhist eyes and analyzing the experiences of life in that way. So I see myself and my family as practitioners rather than like believers. So we always engage with a lot of things, and then we started to talk about things, and then it came into the discussion or conclusion with Buddhist experience analysis in that way. So I grew up in that kind of family. So you see that a lot of time, like my mother always giving the suggestion in life through Buddhist philosophy, which means that there's a lot of self-reflection. Why you're doing that and what you feel about it, how your experience is, happens or interact with these things that happen. So there's a lot of talking about the experiences, really similar to self-reflection in the Western kind of thought. And that is the way I grew up. And also that's why it made me really keen on listen to other experiences or maybe like embody experiences. So it's not the questions of why I've started to really taking interest in arts and theater and performance, because these things is also talking a lot about experience, the aesthetic experiences, analyzes how the artist is interact with the world, within himself, within herself, So this thing is, I think it's leading me to understand and to see the connection between Buddhism and dance and performance. And I really seeing, through my study between Buddhism and performance, which is both of these two things, their fundamental belief is really based on body and practice. So, if you really try to understand Buddhist philosophy, you need to understand it through practice. Like dance, like theater, you have to practice. And how you practice it's only through body, right? So you have to do the body practice for dance to get the skills, to get the pattern, the routine, to get the body control. Is the same as meditator as well. Meditator is also practiced through body, through strengthen your awareness and control in terms of like mindfulness control of your body, not like control as a dancer. So it's really similar in the way. And if you really look at that deeper, deeper of these two things, like Buddhist and dance and performance, you know, at the end, you really try to unpack and understand experience. You know, when you already are a good meditator, you understand, you have the body awareness, and then what else? You have to really understand these experiences that happen within you. Also, like dancer as well, you know, you're a good dancer, you can do a lot of routines, but you know, if you want to be becoming a really great dancer, you have to really understand the experience of dance and how to convey that experience to other. So it is different, you know, you can do a lot of routines, but if you're really not understanding and seeing what the experience in dance giving you, you cannot really giving that kind of experience to your audience. So I think that's the two thing is really similar. However, the final purpose of both things, you know, meditator and dancer is different. I have to say and admit that it's different, because meditator, like Buddhist meditator, trying to understand and then to let go of all the attachment. But for dancer, for performer, you have to create. That means you have to grasp something. You have to capture something from that experience. So that is the, you know, the line at the end. It's a little bit like, you know, different way. So that's I think that why where you know, my background and then the two things collide for me. The two things, yeah.
Thank you. That's wonderful. And so I think a big part of your experience combining the two was in your PhD thesis. So before we move to your article, Choreographing the Site of Impermanence, I was hoping you could talk a little bit about your PhD thesis, Noting the Self from Embodying Buddhist Vipassana Meditation to Meditation-Based Performance, where you explore what you call noting. So can you explain to the students what you mean by noting, and how did the dissertation work prepare you for your article and your career?
Okay. My PhD, it started with my own questions, because I'm really feeling as a performer, I started to feel like I'm really bad at improvisation. Why is that? That's the first question that started with that, and then I started to try to understand my experience of how I came across into this, you know, unknown place, like improvisation. I don't know where I should go, you know. So that's one part of my performer side that instigate this kind of questions, and then the other side is that the experience in terms of how to understand and unpack it. So I look at the meditation practice as I hoping that the meditative practice and the states of meditation might maybe help me to navigate through that dance floor and improvisation in terms of performance practice. It becomes my methodologies of trying to find ways to create things through that state, and I call it as a meditation-based performance as a methodology. So when I say noting, I have to refer back to the way we practice meditation. You know, as a foundation, when you first knowing about meditation, you have to in Thailand, you have to note which means you're trying to combine the not this, I'm probably using different word. You're trying to make your mind focus on the activities you do, and by noting it. So the first basic thing you have to, maybe you have to say it, like you're lifting your hand, lowering your hand. You have to do it like synchronized through your movement by uttering or speaking, describing the action, as to kind of like pulling your mind to focus on the activities. And then, you know, when you're started to really getting strong in that kind of awareness, the noting, maybe you can do it inside yourself. So like you breathing in and out, you can note it within inside. You don't have to speak it, right? And then if you're really getting better, you drop all the noting in that sense of description. You just knowing, observing. You just see that, you know, your breathing is going in and your breathing is going out without saying anything in your mind. Basically, the word noting is that is the observation, like the really mindfulness observation. So I practice these to be aware of what I am doing in terms of movement, and sculpture. I maybe not the sculpture, and trying to engage it with the movement, which is not in pattern. And usually the basic meditation approach will use really like a repetitive actions, right? Breathing in, breathing out, legs left, right legs left, you know, raising. You know, it's always repetitive to really practice your focus. But for improvisation, for things that you don't know what happened, it's not repetitive. So you have to be much more aware of what is going to happen. So you have to be following your movement, your body. You have to pay more attention to that. So by doing that, what I find is that the body experiences really helping me to focus better, and also the mind that drift away. You have a way to bring it back. Like you have just to, you know, moving a little bit much more faster or stronger to get the sense of body, and that would, you know, you bring it back to bring that drip away mind back to your body, to be, you know, in that meditative state. So in that way, you know, if your mind drifting a lot, there probably a lot of a movement happens as well. But then, you know, when you already start seeing yourself like that, you start to learn about how you move, how your body reacts to things, and you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about how you think as well, because as a performer, it's really scary when you are on the floor and knowing nothing, you know, what I should do. It's hard because usually you know what you're supposed to do, what routines and what things would please entertain the audience. But when you go in there without knowing, and you explore you're really seeing your mind's going explode. I have to do something. I have to create something now, or else it's going to be boring. You know, that sense, that noting also. I start seeing a lot of my anxiety in terms of being performer. That, you know, I'm trying to do this and trying to do that without trying to really listen to the body, you know, at first. So when I looking at myself and learning a lot about myself in that way, so I started to, the easiest word would be, I can control my own kind of like mind, because I already started to understand how I deal with this through meditative states. So it's really okay now. I think in the honest way, I would say it's really not frightened anymore, in terms of state fright and stuff. You're going in and you don't feel like it's okay. You can fail. You can be not perfect in on stage. It's okay. You just have to be there. You have to just be fully aware in terms of performance. I think that noting is really preparing me for being a performer who open up to many experiences that going to happen on stage, or even in my own experiences like normal person as well. It's really helping me to see things as they are, to not trying to make things perfect, or not trying to grasp things that have to be like this or this way and that way. Sometimes I even, at the really through the end of my project, I start to negate all the feeling that trying to be good at dancing and that, but that at the point it's turned out to be that when I let go of that, my dance and movement is better in that way. So I think I probably cover all the noting, right? One more thing is that I think basically what I see is that working with the body, experience through body, awareness of body is really important in both dance and in Buddhism as well. And I really feel like to understand Buddhism is really, you have to use body, because body is the gateway of all experiences. So you can use body as to practice only through body. I think if you really want to understand what Buddhism is like. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And just listening to you speak makes me realize that, most Buddhist studies scholars, traditionally, I should say, are so focused on texts and the content of the texts. And so you're a very unique scholar in the sense that you are working with the body as your tool and as your kind of access to Buddhism as a way of life, but also as a study. So I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about how you understand the conception of Buddhism in the body, and how this might differ from somebody who's maybe not an insider to Buddhist culture, or some of the students who might be listening now.
I think as I said, because Buddhism is experiential based practice. So without body, without doing, it's really hard to understand what actually Buddhist is. So if you just read it, it's not practice. I think Buddha said once, right? I think that, don't believe me, just try it yourself, just do it yourself. So I think, the way Buddhist philosophy is saying is that, through teaching, to listening, probably is a good thing to start it with. But if you really want to experience what is Buddhism, you have to practice. You have to try through your body, through yourself. You have to try to engage, like, eating. You can see how it's made, and you can see the image and things, but you never really understand how it tastes like until you eat it. I think that is about Buddhism. So the body is, as I say, the gateway to understand what is Buddhism. So you have to practice in that sense.
And so the body, a very important part of your piece, choreographing the site of impermanence. And you have a very interesting distinction that you make in this article between the body as an object versus seeing the body as a subject. And so I was hoping you could talk a little bit about how Buddhism, or how you as a scholar and a professional, disentangle these ideas and shift back and forth between them.
That's a very, very good question. Thank you, Tony. It's really difficult questions as well. I think I must say that when I say seeing body as object, is the object of meditation, object of trying to contemplate, like contemplation of the body. So you're looking at body as the object of the mind, object of the meditation, to try to understand what is it. There, as I said in the article, Kaya Kata Sati Sutta, which means the ways to contemplating the body, the foundation of mindfulness. It's the 7 approaches that looking at body in different ways. And there's the approach like disgusting body, the dead body, the 4 elements. And this thing is like trying to understand how this body as a form, as a thing, as a what I say, entity, maybe in English. How is it? What is it? And what is the elements of it, like 4 elements, like earth, wind, fire, water. They all consist of natural things, and and one day it will disappear into these elements. It's just the form, temporary forms. So you understand the disgusting body as, the body is always having the disgusting things within, like maybe you are the most beautiful girl, beautiful boy, but you still have to go doing your business. So it's the same. People, human, all the same. The body is the same. There's nothing like better body, like that's very beautiful. You don't, and if you understand it, you wouldn't try to go against the aging, trying to do a lot of changing thing. It's just that way, and it will disappear. It will go away anyway. So in that way, the bodies become the object of studying, to understand the truth, of the 3 characteristics, the universal characteristic that is always changing. You couldn't really try make it, always become like I always 22. You cannot do that. Your body will change anyway. Things will change as an object. So the body become a really great teacher for you. When you grow up, you become mature. You started to feel your body. Oh, it's aching. Very easily, and it started to that thing is letting me down again, and it's normal. It's the it's the things are supposed to happen, because it's always change. Things always change. The bodies always change as well. So if you're seeing this through your body, your own body, which is not other body, it's really I think you really will learn deeply about your feelings, because usually we really looking at our body. We really love our body, right? Very attached to our body. So you're looking at other people's bodies. It's not really what is it called? Not really affect you as a meditator as much. But if you're really looking at your own body that is really decaying, the words, I don't know, going bad, going worse, or even that aching somewhere. I think if you really look at that closely, you will really learn the truth that to not being what you call, to not being like suffer from that. It's really hard to say in English, but it's to not anxious about things. Why my bag is always, I must have something wrong, going that way. It's just, you just have to let go and seeing what happens, and then you're going to for helps, and it's just, you're going through the things that you're supposed to do, not like just, my bag is someone doing this to me, and going berserk on that way of thinking. And for seeing body as subject, for me, it's when you say subject here, it means self, like my body, I am. This is Dr. Tanatchaporn Kittigong, the professor, like, this is I am, this is my body, don't do that to me. Like someone, grasping your hand, and don't do that to me. That's the kind of like body subject. At that way, the way of thinking of body as subject is like the notion about self, like you're trying to giving understanding the body as my, as I am, as mine. The self in terms of Buddhism is just like a naming, how you define the phenomena. So I think like at the end of Buddhism, we said it's non-self, right? There's no self. Actually, it's just phenomena that we're trying to define. That is this is Tony, and this is Orr, and this is Dr. Frances, right? That's temporary naming, defining that experience. So seeing the body as subject is also trying to understand that as well. That the feeling of knowing that you are Tanatchaporn Kittigong is just only temporarily define entity or self in that way. Yeah, I think I'm going too much.
No, that's wonderful, and it kind of shows, I feel like, some of the profound insights that you get as a performer, as opposed to just reading about some of these. I mean, just the way that you talk about them and the way that you write about them, I think they really hit home for people who read it. So it's wonderful. And you've talked a little bit about Kaya Gata Sati, and there was a few more questions I wanted to ask you about this, but you've really got at a lot of it. So I was just hoping now you could maybe move a little bit towards what you mentioned in the end there about the naming, or the nama rupa, and so the mind and the body. And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, and in particular how you kind of experience that through performance or dance, or what kind of insights dance and performance give you into nama rupa.
Okay, so as I say, like nama and rupa, right? Nama is the naming, and rupa is like a form, right? The form. In Buddhist practice, in Buddhist philosophy, we try, as a meditator, we try to understand that through practice. Like what I just told you about the body, seeing body as object and seeing body as subject, is the same framework towards the nama rupa. So you have to know that this body is just rupa, which is form that consists of this and that. It will go away one day, and also naming, defining that phenomena. It just just temporarily. Maybe tomorrow I'm not Dr. Tanatchaporn Kittigong anymore if I don't want to be. So you can, it's just like temporary naming of that phenomena, of that experiences. So in the way for the meditator to understand things, Buddhism really allowing you to kind of like step away a little bit and to see things in the most like simple way, just like this is things, and this is the way you're naming things, to understand the reality of the experience that happened within you as a meditator, and also as a performer as well. Like as I told you before about my experience of being a performer, I want to I want to create this, I want to entertain that, and I if you're really looking at this, you will see like naming that temporarily self trying to do something, and the body is going or not, will do or not do, it's the thing that I think you can use that kind of framework into analyzing a lot of experience that happens within Buddhist philosophy practice. So it's not easy, but it's really interesting to trying to distinguish the elements of these two, and maybe you will learn a lot about things. And what actually you really attach to. Are you really attached to rupa or nama? Are you really attaching to your thinking, or actually on the form? Because if you're really looking at it closely, sometimes it's only just nama that you attach to, or maybe sometimes it's just rupa. So if you're really trying to engage and to observe your experience through nama rupa, it will help you to understand the phenomena that happens to you as well. That's nama rupa for my understanding.
In your article, you write that in choreographic practice, a performer, by observing the impermanent body, can cultivate extreme self-consciousness and self-control. So how does this cultivation then allow for the moving body to note the movement of the mind? Because you discussed a little bit about the impermanence of the body, and you've talked about the act of naming and the mental processes in nama. So how is the movement of the body different than the movement of the mind?
Very, very interesting questions, really full-on questions. How the noting of the mind, actually, first of all, I have to state that every person is different. In terms of their in Pali would say jarit, I don't know how, conduct. So people are different. Some people prefer sitting meditations, not doing a lot of things. Some people like me could not do sitting meditation for long, but if doing movement meditations, I'm full on, go on, I can do it. It's different type of people prefer different things, right? That's the first thing that I would like to say first. So when I say the example of my own experience, it's just maybe only for myself. I don't know how other people would be, but for doing the noting of the movement, my movement, when using that meditative state, you really seeing, receiving, perceiving your bodies really in details. As you're sitting here, you can feel your feet, and you can feel your butt, you can feel your legs and back. And when you're doing movement on stage, it's the same. You feel like fully aware of from the your head into your toes. And when things happen, we always moving, as a dancer, we always moving, every people always moving, because we're breathing, right? It's more, we always moving. But for the dancer, if you just trying to do the routine, that this arms going up, that legs going this way, but in the meditative state, if you just started to lift up something, lift your hands up or your arms up, you can feel the effect of all the, not just the arm, but you can feel how all the bodies work, your muscle in the back, you get all the details of the thing. And then you started to see how you can work with the muscle behind this action as well. So you find the creations in that term of moving, because you perceiving better in terms of the body awareness. So if you're moving like this, and then you started to feel that way, you're following that one going to that way, you can see all the connections within the bodies. Just to lift up your fingers, and you started to, getting, oh, it's going that way and going this way. So in terms of noting the movement, just to see the movement in that meditative state is really expanding your awareness through your bodies, and use it as a performer. You can use that to create a different things, not just like hands up, legs up, and that's one routine, but you can create behind that things. And when I say noting the mind, because everyone is different, as I said before, but my mind in the practice as a performer, I try. It's really. I think it's natural for performer to try to make the movement beautiful. we tend to trying to make things beautiful or attractive, and but the body is just going the way it is. So when that intention trying to shape a little bit of my movement to be a little bit more beautiful, getting more a little bit of thing, it's I can start to see that's the intentions that's happened, that the how being performer is getting active again. If I'm noting that happen, that if I seeing that happens, I tend to try to getting a little bit leaving it a little bit aside if I cannot get rid of it, and I just trying to focus more deeply to what happened in the body. Sometimes, from my experience, sometimes body is knowing faster than myself as mindfulness, myself as, because it's my mind, part of my mind started to drift. That's the body start automatically, I think, trying to contain that states of awareness. So that drifting away, and the body started to move faster, doing maybe heavier, changing something that made me aware as well that, oh, something just started to drift that way. Yeah, I think that's my whole experience as working in the studios, in terms of noting the mind and noting the body happens.
You talk about in your article, you talk about a few different projects that you've done in the studio, and also that you performed on stage, and in particular Hunger, which we mentioned a little bit earlier. There's also Land and Skin, the ballad of Nakfra Kanong, which I found on YouTube after Googling your name, so the students want to do so. I was hoping you could talk a little bit about what your experience is. You have mentioned that a little bit, but what you're trying to kind of convey, and what your larger artistic mission is with these performances, and then whether you're currently working on any other new projects.
Oh, thank you. First of all, I am really interested in terms of performance on experience of performer. So when we talk about performance, not like just only dance per se, but the concept of performance, it's really allowing us to see things in different perspectives. So when I'm doing my performance, it's not only like narrative or having a content to follow. More of that, I try to staging that experience that happens, in terms of, meditative, in terms of that really delicate experience that performer encounter within herself and within the environment that she facing. I really trying to framing that as a work, as my artistic method on working on my performance. So nothing, hunger, and also land and skin, using this kind of artistic framework that I try to create. So all these three performance, actually the way of the structure of these performances happens according to what happened in my experiences during the creations. So it's I think what I'm trying to do is to look more closer to how performer and people experiencing thing, and how we looking at that in details of how that perception is going, and then what happened after it contact with you, and trying to expand and seeing this small process that the reaction that is just, going like that, and you receive it. But I'm trying to seeing that moment of when things contact, and then you started to realize how you realized what things coming in, and how it's formed, and how it's going out to as an expression of feeling. So in a way, 5 aggregates would really help to explain this, because if you really look at how Buddhists describe how people interact, how people receiving things and producing all the feelings and thinking is through sensations, and how it, step by step, seeing, and then recognition, memories, everything's going into that formations, and then the self, that is my thing, they couldn't do this to me, and then, the feelings go up projecting out. So I tend to, my artistic practice tend to try to understand and seeing these little 1 millisecond, trying to expand it as much as possible in terms of artistic, and in terms of, on stage, how you see it. If you really see the big things, this thing into like 1 hour or 50 minutes, what happens?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I looked at Land and Skin, and it's actually very slow, right, and very methodical, but you're trying to take these milliseconds of experience that maybe you're trying to engage with during the creative process, and then bring them out for the audience in a much kind of slower way, so that they can kind of join with you in your thought process and your body process. So that makes a lot of sense. And you've done a great job, I think, telling us about your work, inspiring us. The one last question that I really want to ask is, and just to kind of take a step back, about dance as a methodology, because I find that it's not only that you're producing dance, but it seems like you're discovering while you dance. And so in this sense, dance is a methodology, and it also seems like a language, because you're not necessarily, like, you've written this piece that the students are going to read, but you're also putting these performances out, and that's your own kind of way of expressing and communicating. So how is dance a methodology and even a form of language that can bring new insights, not only into yourself, but also for the field of Buddhist studies, or for the study of Buddhism?
I would say I don't know whether the dance is like just dance. I think what dance say is the body. So it's probably not like the dance as a dance form, but how the body is engaged with the world and stuff. So maybe you don't have to be dancer to doing this. You just seeing yourself moving in that way. So I think probably body as a way of engaging the world is the best methodologies of trying to understand things. That the way I would put it is that. So in the way, even though you are a dancer or you're not a dancer, both of you using the body to be engaging with the world and others. Yeah. And for the language, right? Can't remember the question. For the language of dance, can you repeat that questions again?
I guess the question is really, how can dance express certain points or parts of Buddhism that you can express with written or spoken language?
Oh, okay. It's this question is really interesting, and it's really hard to answer. But the question led me to think about when I see my the teacher, the monk teacher, who was really strong, have a really strong mindfulness and ability. He's been long practitioners. You see how they move is really different. You can feel it. It's really hard to explain, but you can feel it, that the way they move their body is really different. And the energy of that awareness of the body, really different from other people. I would, it's really hard to say that, is that Buddhism? When you're seeing that, I think it's the effect of mindfulness in terms of, I think it's not only Buddhist monk, I think it's every people who have a really strong awareness. I think the Christianity, the monk in, I don't know how to say, the monk in other religions also have that awareness, you know, that beautiful awareness and the movement of their body is different. I think that to assess that, I think you can really feel if somebody is knowing, you know, engaging themselves in that awareness. But how about seeing it as a Buddhist kind of like philosophy? I think it's really difficult to pin down. It's really hard as well to explain it. I don't know whether my eyes, like, you know, like a very just beginner of as a practitioner would really see that, you know. It probably if you are a really strong, like experienced practitioners, that your sense is really open, you might be able to see that or feel that much more than just like a basic like meditator. I don't know, that I think that's my answer.
That's wonderful. And I'm so grateful for your time, Dr. Kittigong. And on behalf of the students and on behalf of everyone who's going to be listening to this, it was an honor and a pleasure. And I really want to thank you for sharing not only your thoughts, but also sharing your artistic work and sharing your academic work with the rest of us. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Tony, and thank you to Dr. Frances and University of Toronto as well. It's really, I'm really happy and really, I'm delighted. You know, when I first got the contact from Dr. Frances, and I was like really happy because it's not a lot of people would be really interested in this kind of interdisciplinary, especially in, you know, the Buddhist studies, you know, and the dance, you know, the both world, you know, it's have a specific interest. But when I got the invitation from you and Dr. Frances, is really, I'm really delighted, and I'm really happy that my work would be something to be looking at and critiques and you know, to trying to be something that can understand Buddhist much more in different ways. I think it's it's a really great pleasure for me to be talking to you, and really wonderful questions. It's, questions you propose really get me thinking, and really, I have to come back and read my articles again. It was written after my PhD. So at that time, I was really like a practitioners really engaged in that time, and now lives continue. Sometimes I didn't really get into that studio as much often now as when I was doing my PhD, and this is like the way of going back there, and it's really giving me a very big motivation that I have to continue doing this, and that's because of you and University of Toronto, that seeing these articles, and I just feel like I really have to continue doing this and explore more about this. Thank you very much, Tony, and thank you for everyone who's listening to this.